Stoccato's large shadow covered Kane and Kanai as they strolled down the sidewalk. Stoccato was Kane's magna eagle, one of the spirit animals Kane could summon. While Queen was at home working on a lesson with Kenzo, Kane and Kanai were off to explore the woods down the street. Kane always felt at home in the woods testing his abilities, but was a bit nervous about going with Kanai alone. Kanai thoroughly enjoyed the liberty to unleash his wild side without any restrictions. Kane was 3 years older than Kanai, but he tended to treat Kanai like a baby. "How are you liking being out and not having to mimic?" Kane asked. "It is great. I can just relax." Kanai waved his hands as if to push away the worries. "I bet. I love having my own room. Sharing with you guys was getting old." "Yeah, I do miss the treehouse though." "Yes, I loved the treehouse. It wasn't much to look at, but it was our escape from that crowded house." Kane looked up at Stoccato, looping above their heads. "That was where I first saw Stoccato." "You never told me that," Kanai said. "You were still little. I doubt you remember, but we still have some time before we reach the woods." "I can tell you about it," Kane started. 7 years ago, Kane sat in the backyard under the big tree directly below the treehouse for some relief from the heat while scratching Illusion behind the ear. Illusion was a pitch-black German shepherd with twinkling violet eyes. Illusion had appeared one day as Kane sat on the balcony of the treehouse, brooding after Kai and Kenzo would not let him join as they played a game. From that day on, Illusion would appear whenever Kane was sad or lonely. Illusion had always seemed to ignore everyone else. Kai came rushing out of the house, looking for Kane. "What are you doing out there?" Kai yelled from the back door at Kane. "We were supposed to be playing, and you disappeared." He walked over to where Kane was sitting. "I don't want to play anymore. I'm playing with Illusion." "You could have told me," Kai rebutted. "You have been conjuring up that dog for 6 months now. Make something else appear. He does not do anything." Kane continued to pet Illusion's soft, dark fur. "I like him. Mom is helping me figure out what he does." Kane felt upset that Kai was teasing his dog. Suddenly, the hair on the back of Illusion's neck perked up, and he began to snarl. They had never heard him growl before. Interesting. Kai's eyes widened as he looked at the dog. "Well, that's new." Kai took a step backward and then said, "Mom wants you." Wherever Kane went, Illusion would follow, but Queen would not let him come inside the house. It was good that Kane could make the dog appear and disappear whenever he wanted. Kane touched Illusion's head and said, "I will see you tomorrow." Illusion watched Kane as he walked inside. Then he vanished. The next day was another scorching hot day. The older boys were in the yard playing in the sprinklers before they took a break for a treat. "Come here, boys, popsicles!" Queen yelled. They all came running. They each picked their favorite flavor and headed back outside to enjoy it. When they finished, Kane got up to go inside and ask for another. He eventually found his mother in the bathroom bathing Kanai, whose mouth was dripping with the grape remnants of the popsicle. "Can I have another popsicle?" "No, don't be greedy, baby. Save something to enjoy another day," Queen replied. Kane tried to protest, but Queen would not let up. Finally, he pouted and turned to walk away. He was upset, so he called on Illusion to keep him company. They started playing. Illusion chased Kane through the living room. He was laughing and having so much fun. Then, after one wrong turn, Kane ran into the end table and knocked over the onyx lamp. When he picked it up, there was a huge crack and a chip in the ceramic. Oh no. It was his mother's favorite lamp, one that was older than Kai. Queen had taken special care of it when they left their home in Illa. He picked up the lamp, straightened out the shade, and put it back on the end table with the damaged side facing the wall. He looked at Illusion and said, "It will be okay. Maybe she won't notice." Then Illusion disappeared, and Kane crept back outside as if nothing had happened. A week later, Queen blasted music and prompted everyone to thoroughly clean the house. It wasn't a big house, but she insisted on keeping it tidy. While she was dusting the end table, she noticed the broken lamp. "Boys, get in here now!" A stampede of footsteps headed in her direction. As each of them entered the living room, she said, "Have a seat." Her face was straight. Kane knew someone was in big trouble. "Who wants to tell me about the lamp?" Kane watched his brothers as they looked around, confused. He joined in, trying his best to act surprised. "I didn't do it," Kai declared. "I don't know what you are talking about," Kenzo replied. Well, it wasn't me, Kane said. Kane could see from the expression on her face that she was furious. Are you all going to sit here and lie to me? Queen asked through gritted teeth. She took a breath, then continued. Since no one wants to take responsibility, you are all grounded until someone can tell me what happened. Now go finish your tasks. They all stood up with multiple complaints flying as they walked out of the room. Later that day, while everyone was settling in and getting ready for bed, Kane came to Queen's room. Mom, I don't want you to be mad at me. I broke the lamp. It was an accident. She tilted her head to one side and squinted. You let everyone get in trouble for your mistake? He looked down at his feet. Yes, Mama. Kane finally looked up at her and said, I don't want everyone to get punished for something I did. Her anger seemed to ease a little. I'm glad you told me. It would be best if you had told me when it happened, and we could have avoided all the ugliness. Instead, you made things more difficult by trying to hide things and lie. She grabbed his chin and turned his face so he was looking at her. Tell me the whole truth about what happened. Kane was stripped of all his games, forbidden from calling illusion, and would complete additional chores for the next month. He graciously accepted the punishment and apologized. As he entered his bedroom, he thought he saw something outside his window. What is that? It can't be. Perched on the railing of the treehouse was a magna eagle. Kane was frozen in place as he stared out the window at the magnificent creature. He had never seen one in real life and had always believed they were mythical creatures. A magna eagle was almost twice the size of a regular eagle, with a powerful 12-foot wingspan and versatile strength. Kane was so amazed, he stared at it for what seemed like an eternity, and it seemed to be staring back at him. Then, when Kane tilted his head, the magna eagle did the same. There was something that felt familiar about this bird. As Kane walked closer to his bedroom window, he could see the magna eagle had twinkling violet eyes. Kane, his mother called from the other room. He turned to look at the door, then back out the window, but the magna eagle had disappeared. Coming. Prime, Kanai said after Kane shared the memory. Do you think Mom will let us get a dog now? I doubt it. Mom barely tolerates illusion. Kane replied as they stepped off the sidewalk into the wooded area. Stoccato soared above the trees to watch over the boys. They turned off the beaten path, running, jumping, and laughing all the way. Suddenly, they heard something rustling in the distance and stopped in their tracks. They stood still as statues, but there was only the chirping of birds in the distance. Kane looked at his brother. Did you hear that? I think so. Where did that come from? I'm not sure. I don't hear anything now. Maybe it was a deer or something. Do they even have deer here? They both laughed uncontrollably. Suddenly, rapid thuds and clouds of dirt began in the distance, swiftly coming closer. The camouflaging faded, and Kane identified the animal charging at them with razor-sharp claws tearing up the earth as a baby trident. Baring fanged teeth, the trident screeched, then lowered its head, adorned with distinct seashell-shaped horns, as it charged. Stoccato swooped down and smashed the trident in the side of the head. Stoccato knocked the trident off course a bit, but it did not take long for him to recover. The magna eagle came back around and prepared for another strike. They had learned about the trident in school and from books, but they were so rare, the boys had not seen one up close until now. People used to kill them and make weapons from their teeth, claws, horns, and bones, because its super density made it the toughest material known to man. It had an ivory bone-like appearance from the outside, but inside was a molten metal that hardened when exposed to the air. Most of the tridents had been killed ages ago by poachers. They were believed to be extinct, and definitely not found in this area. The attack was completely unexpected. Get in the tree, now! Kane yelled. Kanai climbed a nearby tree as fast as possible and sat on a limb, looking down. Kane lifted his hands, and the dirt rose and spun in front of him. He closed his hands together as if he were making a snowball. The spinning earth suddenly compacted into spheres. With each push of his hands, the dirt balls sped at the trident. Stoccato continued to deliver devastating blows, but the trident kept coming. Although this trident was a baby and the 3 horns on its head were not fully grown, it stood 3 times the size of Kane and would not go down easily. The dirt balls were bursting on contact, causing minimal damage. Kane had to think fast. He looked around and saw a large boulder nearby. The gift of manipulating elements was still relatively new to Kane, but he had to try something. He concentrated on the boulder, and it began to roll in their direction. Nothing was standing between the boulder and the trident other than Kane himself. As the boulder gained momentum, Kane continued to distract the trident with speeding dirt balls. Right before the boulder reached him, Kane threw up a dirt wall. Staccato swooped in and picked up Kane in his talons. The trident slammed through the wall to get Kane, but the boulder crashed into its head instead, and it went down. Staccato flew up to the branch where Kanai was sitting and let him climb on his back. He safely brought the boys to the ground close to where the trident fell. Kane and Kanai walked over to the trident slowly. It was knocked out, but not dead. Kane wanted to put the trident out of its misery, so he instructed Staccato to deliver one last blow under the trident's neck. It was a known weakness, but challenging to hit. Once they were sure it was dead, they looked at each other and exclaimed, "That was so wild." Kane harvested the largest of the 3 horns adorning the trident's head. The boulder had broken the horn on impact, and it would not take long after the air was introduced for it to harden. When they got home, they told Mom and Kenzo what had happened. He showed the horn he had harvested. When Kane handed the horn to Queen, he noticed a faint purple vein in it. Everyone passed the horn around in admiration. Once the adrenaline wore off, Kanai was sad they had had to kill the trident. He wanted to bury the body, so they took Queen to the scene. When they arrived, the trident was gone. Kane was certain it was the right location. The boulder was still there, and the foliage was broken where the trident had fallen. Queen noticed tracks from the trident, but as she followed, she noticed tracks from people heading further into the woods. Rather than follow, they turned back toward home. Later that day, Queen took Kane for his lesson. The clouds were rolling in fast, and the sun was fading when Kane's lesson was almost over. "I am really impressed at how well you were able to control Staccato. I think we can do something cool with that horn," Queen said. "Really? Like what?" Kane asked. "Decoration for your room or something, get it?" "Let's see if it speaks to us," Queen said. Kane ran to his room to retrieve the horn. When he returned to Queen and held out the horn, the electric purple veins were even more noticeable. He could see the astonishment in her eyes as she hesitated before taking it from him. Once Kane's hands left the horn, the electric purple veins faded away. Queen asked, "Have you noticed that this horn reacts differently when you touch it?" "Yeah, I don't know what that is about," Kane muttered. "You can channel your energy into the horn and pull energy from the air. Well, it may seem like the air, but it is actually ancestral energy. This horn is a conduit for residual energy that will allow you to have magnified power. More power than any normal weapon you can wield." Queen paused, and her eyelids dropped. Then she plastered on a smile and continued. "Your father used to have a sword that did something similar. Based on the shape, this would make a great axe." "An axe?" "Prime." Kane grinned from ear to ear, then stopped cold. "How can it be an axe? It is already hardened." "I thought once it hardens, it cannot be changed." "You are partially correct. To be fully accurate, it cannot be changed by any other material. It can only be manipulated by the same material, fire, and a few other steps." "We don't have anything like that," Kane replied. "We don't. But I know someone who does." Queen smiled. "In the meantime, we can make a training axe. As you train, the ancestors must deem you worthy, and they will each sign the horn, unleashing more energy. As you gain approval, the axe will gain more power. Once you have trained in the axe's use, we will sharpen it, and you can use it for self-defense only. It is certainly not a toy." Kane could not contain his excitement as he shouted, "Yes, ma'am!"